I read pretty much all genres. Yeah, a lot of people consider that trashy. I consider it a good time. Hi, I'm Sock Marionette of Bargain Counter Argument, and I'm a middle-aged lady in a tiara talking about books. And today I want to do I don't know exactly what the official name of the tag is. It's the find somebody whose taste matches your own. The do our tastes align tag, I guess. Now, this was started by Thoughts on Tomes, and my name is Marion S., I believe. They will be linked in the description along with some others. And they started this, I think one or the other or both of them had taken a break from BookTube or something like that. And they came back and they were trying to find creators whose tastes more or less aligned with theirs. And then they thought, well, why limit it to just people whose tastes might align with ours? Let's make a tag that will help like-minded readers find each other. So you can, so they've been encouraging people to do this. There's no specific person that they've tagged. They're just like, anybody who sees this and wants to do it, please do that. And I saw it because Fifi Needs to Read Romance, to whom I am subscribed, did the tag. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this too, in the hopes that, we can find some like-minded people. And so I'm going to discuss how I think about books and what I do on this channel. And if our tastes align, great. Please leave a comment, let me know, and link to your own channel if you have one. But also I'm interested in people whose tastes don't necessarily align with mine, because I'm always looking to find new stuff to read. So I will have more channel details at the end, because right now you probably are just wanting to know what are the questions and how am I going to answer them. Okay, so the first question is, how do you rate or evaluate books? Now, I do not use a rating system. I used to, when I'd finish a book and go to log it on Goodreads, it would kind of automatically encourages you to give it a star rating and leave a review. And that felt too much like homework. And it seems like everybody's star systems are different and they require some kind of footnote or explanation. For some people, a 3-star read is really, really good. And for others, it's kind of mediocre, and I don't know. What I usually do is decide whether or not I thought the book was worth my time, and if I think it's worth other people's time to read it. And so that's kind of the basic evaluation I make. Am I glad I read this book? Am I sorry I read this book? Was I so sorry I started this book that I did not even finish it? Did I enjoy reading this book so much that I would want my own copy of it? Because I frequently get copies. My books are copies from the library. So for the book I own, do I want to keep it? For the book I got from the library, do I want to actually seek out my own copy of it? And so I usually don't try to encapsulate that into a single number. I usually just say, I like this book, I didn't like this book. This is why I didn't like it, so maybe you would like it. Because that's the other thing, is just because I didn't like something doesn't mean it wouldn't, it's a, taste is not objective. Okay, what is your review style? Meaning, is it emotional, analytical, casual, structured? I would say I'm probably more on the emotional, casual. Like I said, it's kind of like the vibe. Did I have a good time reading this book? Not necessarily, does it stand up to scrutiny on a technical level? Now, I will notice if something is so poorly written that I have trouble understanding what the author's trying to convey. I am more interested in failure analysis, like if I didn't like a book, why not? And what would make me like this book better? Or how would this maybe be a good book for somebody who's not me? Or, is it that I just don't like the writer's style, in which case I'm not going to pursue more books by them? Or is it more that I didn't like this particular book, but I am interested in more books by that same writer? So when it works, and when it doesn't, I'm kind of curious as to why and how other people might use that information. But it's pretty casual, I think. It's certainly wordy, in case you hadn't guessed. Okay. What's the book that made you a reader? That's hard. That's hard to say. I guess it was probably the picture books my parents read to me when I was a kid, and my older sister, because they would, I'd sit in the laps of these older people who could read, and because my sister's 7 years older, and they'd read to me. And one day there was a book I had out we've gone to the library and gotten picture books, and I was reading, and my dad came home from work, and my mom was like, she started reading, and he was like, she didn't memorize the book, and she's like, no, we've never seen this book before. We just got it out from the library, and she knows what she's reading. I don't remember this happening. So apparently that sitting me in the lap and reading to me while turning pages and looking at words by those two adults and an older child, really somehow my brain made that connection between what they were saying and those little marks on the page. So nobody knows when I learned to read. I don't remember not being able to read. I can remember things that probably happened before I could read, but I don't remember ever looking at a sign and not being able to at least hazard a guess as to what it said until when I was like 6.5, we moved to Iran, where they use a completely different alphabet. Then we moved back to the States. Kind of abruptly. Question 4 is, do you have a genre niche? Not really. Lately, I've very much been in my romance era and also my thriller era, but and just in the last couple of weeks, I've been on a big science fiction kick because I'm going to be doing a live stream about science fiction in a couple of days on April 14th. Today is the 12th. That's how that works. Calendar. So I've been reading science fiction. I read pretty much all genres, literary fiction, as it were, general fiction. The only one I don't really mess with too much is Westerns. And I do enjoy reading, I read a lot of romance, including historical romance. And I enjoy historical romances that are set in the Old West. And a lot of those, when I'm reading them, I'm like, yeah, you know what? If they didn't have such an emphasis on interpersonal relationships, both the romance and the other interpersonal relationships, the plot of the story would make an excellent Western. And sadly, Western movies, sometimes they will have a romance element, and a lot of times that gets stripped out. But so I might actually explore Westerns a little bit more. I've read a couple here and there, but not a lot. And I do, and like I said, I do like Western romance. So I might get into my Western era. But other than that, I just read pretty much everything. I read nonfiction, fiction, general fiction, classics, just all stuff. Do you prefer, number 5, do you prefer character or plot-driven stories? It depends on the story. I like it when there's a lot of twists and turns in the plot, like in a thriller, but I also like character-driven stories because that tends to be what happens with romance. Like I said, the Western romances frequently have a plot that would come out of any Western movie, like John Ford could direct this. So sometimes they're plotty, but a lot of times the focus of a romance is the relationships between and among the characters. So, a romance is going to be more character driven because it's like, how do these two people meet? How do they get together? I like a plotty story. I like a character driven story. I even, I kind of am okay with these like weird melodramas where, well, I say weird, these melodramas where maybe the characters just do things because it fits the plot. Those are kind of fun for me. I kind of enjoy those. So, it kind of depends on what I'm reading. I like a good character study, and I like a good, propulsive, action-packed, crashing from one plot point to the next with no real resolution until the end. So, Number 6, what's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? The one book that you love enough for everyone. That's hard to say, and I'm just going to hold up this book. This is also going to come up later in the video. The Prospects by K.T. Hoffman. That's K.T., the initials K.T., not Katie like short for Catherine. And this is a romance. It's queer romance, and we have a cis dude getting together with a trans man who both play for the same AAA ball club. And for those of you not familiar with American baseball, AAA is kind of the last of the minor leagues, and then the next step up is the major leagues. So I don't know enough about other countries' professional leagues to be able to say what the equivalent would be in, say, Premier League versus whatever the next thing down from Premier League is. But that's basically it. They're playing baseball at a very high level, professional baseball at a very high level. And I am just bringing this one up because it was probably my favorite book that was published in 2024 that I've read so far. And I also do read a lot of queer fiction, queer romance. And so that's something you should probably know, is that I am friendly to that kind of work and those kinds of authors. So if you have issues with that, then this is probably not a great channel for you. So I'm going to say I love this enough for everyone, and I think there were plenty of people who did love it. I think it just had its first anniversary like a couple of days ago. It came out almost exactly 1 year ago. What's a book you love so much that if someone else doesn't love it, you know your tastes won't align? I am just, that's not a question I can really answer, because I think that people's individual reactions to books are so specific to them that just because, like, say, somebody doesn't like The Prospects, that doesn't mean that our tastes are not going to align. Unless they object to it for reasons of not liking queer romance at all because it is queer, in which case, yes, that is a prejudice I don't share, and probably there are going to be some other things that we're not going to agree on if that's the case. But I think, like, if you liked a book that I don't like, or if I like a book and you don't like it, or, anybody, you in the general sense, I'm not going to say that means that we are never going to have any books in common. So what I would say is basically, just because I really like a book and you don't like it, I don't think that that's any particular reason why I wouldn't like other books that you like. Okay. Question 8 is, what's in your trash pocket? And apparently a trash pocket, that means just like guilty pleasures or what stuff. I think they use the phrase, it's bad, but you like it anyway. I don't really like the phrase guilty pleasures. I like stuff. I like what I like, and some of it, some people don't like. And I wouldn't say any of it's objectively bad, or objectively good. It's just what I like and what I don't like. And I think one thing I like that a lot of people consider trashy, and, is stuff like this. This is The Masterstroke by Elizabeth Gage. And Elizabeth Gage are actually, I believe, a husband and wife writing team from the 80s. And they hired a woman to sort of pose as Elizabeth Gage. But this is just kind of one of these 80s sudsy melodramas where people have a lot of money and they seek revenge and they spend a lot of money on luxury goods that are lovingly described. I think Judith Krantz is another one I like who does that. Not so much into Jackie Collins, but yeah, a lot of people consider that trashy. I consider it a good time. Let's see. 9. Do you have any deal breakers in books? Well, I mentioned earlier, if the writing is so poor, the grammar is so poorly used, the sentence structure is so bad, consistently choosing words that don't mean what the writer thinks they mean, to the point where I really honestly don't understand what's going on, or the writing is just distracting me from my ability to enjoy the book, that's a deal breaker. In terms of themes or content, there's stuff I like better than other things and things that I don't particularly like, but a lot of it depends on how it's handled by the author. Sometimes I'm into it, sometimes I'm not. Like some alien romance I really like, and some other alien romance I don't. And there's nothing I would just say, oh, I am not going to read that because it has X. What do you look for in writing, as in what makes a book stand out to you? Prose style, themes, voice, structure, something else? That's wildly variable from one book to the next. So what I look for is to have a good time. And sometimes I have a good time by something that makes me think, that makes me consider things from a new light, gives me new information, whether that can be not just nonfiction, but also fiction. It can give me a new emotional understanding of somebody, some more empathy for a point of view I hadn't considered before, that kind of thing. I like that. I also like just reading a book to find out what happens next. Reading for enjoyment, reading for information. It's all good. It's all what I look for in a book. So, again, as long as it's competently written, I'm fine. Okay, that was question 11, by the way. Question 12 is, how do you decide what to read next? Plan ahead, mood reader, the hype, Rex, arcs, so on. I'm more of a mood reader, but I'm going to be experimenting with TBRs over the next few weeks because I'm going to be participating in the Ever After readathon that's being done by Crystal's Books Forever. And that's got themes and teams and nice and complicated. I love it. And it's going to require some TBR action, which I usually don't have a TBR list. I'm a mood reader. But having said that, one of the moods I have is when I go to the library, because I use the library a lot, I will check out books, something I'll see from browsing or on the news shelf or whatever. I'll grab it, and if it's a hyped book, I might actually seek it out. So a lot of it depends on availability and the mood I am when I go to the library, and then kind of the library checkouts dictate my TBR. I'm looking over there because that's where my shelf of library checkouts is. That is what dictates my TBR. In fact, I have some I have some vlogs where it's reader versus library due dates, because these due dates kind of sneak up on me, and then it's like a race to see if I can finish it before it's due. If you want to see my taste in more granular detail, like books I'm reading and how I feel about them, I would suggest my playlist for my book on hauls. And they're book on hauls because I'm returning the books to the library. And so will give you a good idea of what I'm currently reading and how I feel about it. Because, I discuss the books and did I like it? Would I recommend it? That kind of thing. So that playlist might be a way to get more specific and, like I said, more granular about what I read and what my specific tastes are at this moment in my life, what I'm gravitating toward right now. Okay, question 13. Where do you get inspiration for BookTube content? Other creators, trends. Let's try that again. Where do you get your inspiration for BookTube content? Other creators, trends, personal reading experiences. I couldn't read my own handwriting. Yeah, I'm a reader. That is basically, some of it is trends, some of it is, like I said, I have this whole thing about library versus my vlogs, or library reader versus library due dates, or my book on hauls because they're going back to the library. That's stuff I do that comes out of my deep love for the library and using libraries and wanting to highlight what libraries have to offer. That's also kind of what I'm doing with my reading in general. For example, I've been going to a lot of library sales, and you end up finding at library sales, you find books that are part of a series, but they're not necessarily the first book in a series. So I just kind of grabbed them, and I was like, who is this Christine Feehan? I'm not familiar with her. And so I grabbed some of her books, and then I was like, oh, they're all they're part of different series that she's written. So I want to start reading those series. So I did a video that was called Dive In or Drop Out, and I'm going to do more of those. And that's where I read the first book of a series and decide whether I want to dive into that series, read more books from that series, or drop out. That series was maybe not for me. So that's one idea I had. I get ideas from my friends and commenters. Like, I have one book buddy who said she was interested in reading historical romances from like the 80s and 90s, but she's a little concerned about the yikes potential because we have different social attitudes now than we did then, and different publishing trends and so on. So I was like, well, you know what? I can be a canary in the coal mine because I have a pretty high tolerance for problematic content, and I'm not afraid to DNF a book if it's not working for me. So I thought, well, why don't I do a sporadic series? I've done a couple of these already, where I read the book to see, is it okay to read, or are these books okay to read? Where I just talk about what is the attitude toward consent? Because I think her original concern was those books have a reputation for having a fair amount of assault in them, sexual assault. And I kind of assess it from what is the book's attitude toward consent in relationships, but also colonialism, imperialism, racism, historical analysis that we wouldn't necessarily agree with now, especially like around the American Civil War and some other controversial conflicts and times. So I'm reading those books, and then I'll do an evaluation based on that. And then it's just kind of like, okay, this is what is in the book that's potentially problematic from a modern standpoint, and use this information in good health is my attitude there. So that's another one that I did, and that came from somebody making a comment. So it's what I read, it's what other people do to an extent. I mean, I'm doing this tag video, and it's also people, people's comments, or just, that kind of thing. Okay, and then the final question is, if you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? What's a book that requires more attention, and why? And I'm going to go back to, I think this book has gone kind of viral in certain circles, but that's The Prospects by K.T. Hoffman. I think it's a good romance, and it's a nice emotional journey as well. And I just think people would enjoy it. And yeah, so this one, and then another one is more general, sort of literary fiction, takes place in different time periods, past, present, and future. And that is called Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr, which I really, really liked this book a lot. He also wrote All the Light We Cannot See, it says so right up there, which I haven't read, but I really, really liked this book. And I would, I think people would enjoy it if they had a chance to read it. So that is the final question. In terms of tagging other people, oh, that's interesting, because I thought there was a question on there. Maybe I forgot to write it down. Other YouTubers who you share taste with, maybe that's part of the tag. I would say Kristen Lee. I will link her below. It seems like every time a book comes up, when we're in a live stream or something, and one of us mentions a book, the other one's like, oh yeah, I really like that book. So, and Josh of Coffee Cats and King, and Paige of Paige's Open Book, who are both people, they're married to each other. They have their separate channels. She mostly does dark romance, and he mostly does horror and science fiction and fantasy. And they also like mysteries. That's kind of like where their interests converge. I like what they have to say about books, and I'm also going to tag them. And Ana's Books and Budgets, who is a buddy read pal of mine, and Kristen Lee, when she gets back from vacation, and Paige and Josh. Paige of Paige's Open Book, and Josh of Coffee Cats and King. So I'm going to tag all of those people, and I'm going to tag it back to the original creators, and I'm going to they actually have a playlist, and hopefully they'll add this video to it when they get a chance. And I will also link to that playlist so that you can see other creators who have done this tag, and if their tastes might align with you, and it'll help you find people who, who's either have tastes that aligns with yours, or whose style you like. So anyway, and if I am one of those people whose style you like or taste alignment, then, like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. I am not the boss of you, and I hope you have a good day or night.